This is the Fantasy Football Game Plan, where we talk about fantasy football and the NFL.
What are you doing?
Doing well. I'm doing well because I'm 6-4, back from 2-4. I've been winning. I got guys on my roster that people weren't interested in that I've been hanging on to or picking up, working the waiver wire, and I'm doing great. I'm happy. I'm winning. I've gone from 9th place. I'm the 4th place guy right now.
Ooh.
So projected to maybe make the playoffs if I keep up my winning ways, hopefully.
There's still 7 weeks to go.
7 weeks to go. I think I have 4 games left to decide whether or not I will be in the playoffs. I've got 1 non-divisional game, and then I've got 3 guys in my division, and then the playoffs start. So with 4 games left, that'll determine if I'm in the playoffs. So If I'm not in the playoffs, it's going to be a long season doing this, knowing that I'm out of it. How about for you? How's it going?
Yeah, I won last night. Because of last night, I won with the poor performance of some Eagles players that were on my team, my opponent's active roster. He started and sat a couple of people. That was not his problem. He ended up sitting CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, he had a big day, but how did you know he was going to play? And then there was another person on his team too that he sat. So he would have beat me no matter what I would have done if his bench was sorted out a little differently. But I got the W. Makes me 8-2 on the season, sitting at second spot. Unfortunately, the girl that's sitting at first spot, she had a lot of people on bye weeks, but she was able to command a win to stay in first place at 9-1. So kudos to her. And kudos to the people behind me because they're catching up quickly as everyone seems to be playing pretty much a win to a loss. So like anything from 3 down to 6 is still an open competition. We have a 4-person playoff pool. So top 4 teams make the money rounds and only top 2 will actually be awarded money. So another interesting week. I'm not sure who my opponent is, as I'll figure that out sometime today.
Okay.
I always don't look to see who am I playing before. It's like a little superstition I got going. I don't really care what's happening the prior week. I won't do that until the week is over and I read my recap and I kind of figure out what my waiver wire picks are going to be before I say, oh, I'm playing X and X person, because it's just how I do my business.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm happy that we're both doing well and we're both in the playoff hunt because that makes this a lot more fun doing this. I'm going to start with the bye weeks coming up. So Jacksonville is on a bye, as are the Dolphins. A lot of fantasy points on that Dolphins team. It'll be interesting to see how the teams that have been leaning on those guys do this week. Then we have the Seahawks and the Buccaneers are also on a bye. It is slim pickings on the waiver wire for QBs. I mean, they're going to start Baker Mayfield this week, so he's probably on your waiver wire. But if you have anything at all, you might want to not play Baker Mayfield if you don't have to. And the other thing is that situation in Washington where Wentz is supposed to be healthy soon. But if I were them, I'd stick with Heineke because I think the guys on his team love him. So, I'm not confident. And Heineke didn't do that well fantasy-wise. It's just that the team wins when he plays.
Yeah, he's a great quarterback. A great demeanor on him. Hopefully they take that into consideration. I would hope. Just to make that team a little bit more dynamic and just, getting the W's in such a tough conference. I mean, they just seem to be winning the AFC East.
Yeah, the NFC East. I mean, really impressive for them to knock off the undefeated Eagles on Monday Night Football and on the road. Like, that's very impressive. And then now it makes you just look at the whole league differently because early on it was like, oh, the Bills are so unbeatable. They're so amazing. And then they lose to Minnesota at home. And then same thing with Philly. Oh, Philly's undefeated. They look so great. NFC, top team. Well, they're not better than Washington. They can't even beat them at home on Monday Night Football. So
But you and I have talked about this. Those inter conference games are always so tough. Like New England will be playing the Jets this week, and that's a tough match. No matter how good New England was over the dynasty years,
yeah,
So it's just those conference matchups. Yeah, maybe they don't go, but the Buffalo Vikings game after that matchup, people are just being like, Vikings are going to the Super. No, they're not.
we don't know anything at this point. We don't know anything. And, Bill Belichick always says that nothing matters before Thanksgiving. And I think this year more than ever, he's really correct. And staying on that game that you brought up, I just want to say I'm in a position this week where I think I'm going to have to play Zach Wilson against Belichick in New England just because of how thin that QB waiver wire is. And I'm not looking forward to it, but honestly, I mean, I feel like it's a better choice than Baker Mayfield. You've got Goff and Jimmy G maybe available in some leagues, not in mine. Are those guys available in yours?
Jimmy G is, I believe.
Okay, so maybe he's a good play. Do you have any QB suggestions other than these guys?
Nope, nothing this week. Other than like Jared Goff, which we talked about last week, and then if you want to do sentimental because you like Washington, just pick up Taylor Heineke, which is if you just need somebody. Yeah. If you had like Terry McLaurin as your wide receiver, then go pick up the double points. Other than that, no, not really.
No, it's tough. Okay, running backs.
Yeah, there's a couple out there.
Okay. Well, Scott, we have been killing it. And so, like, a lot of the names that people are talking about this week, we've already talked about these guys. Like, we've been talking about Rachaad White, Jeff Wilson Jr. I heard from someone who watches our podcast that we won his week for him because we talked about Jeff Wilson Jr. last week, and he went and got him and won. So I'm very proud of us for doing that. And we've talked about Isaiah Pacheco. We've talked about a lot of these guys. Do you have anyone else that you can think of coming up?
There's one, and then another one that's a huge stretch.
Okay.
So Jaylen Warren from Pittsburgh, as he seems to be getting more plays over the last 2 weeks. So not someone to start, but a stash maybe, because who knows what happens. And then the second one, which is like this, maybe a hint of doubt, is Donnell Hilliard from Tennessee, because you never know if the workhorse Derrick Henry is going to go out. And if he goes out, they don't change the game plan and they still run 20 times a game. So the backup for Derrick Henry is that sleeper that you should sit on, because who knows, Derrick Henry, it's week 11 now. He might get injured. They use him quite a bit. Yeah. They might want to keep him on reserve for the playoffs. So those are the two suggestions that I have, other than the 5 that you've listed that we've talked about in weeks past. Okay,
and I've got a couple. You've inspired me to throw out another name. I would say Pirine from Cincinnati is kind of in the same situation as Dontrell Hilliard from Tennessee, where he's playing behind a guy who gets all the work. But if anything happens to Joe Mixon, Pirine's the only other guy there. They have another guy named Evans, and he got hurt last time, and he doesn't get much play anyway. So, Pirine, these guys, I guess, are sort of stashes, right?
Yeah, because the weeks are getting deep, and like you say, you don't have many weeks until your finals, if you're in the final, whatever. So these guys, if you have guys on an IR, like there's a lot of people that went on IR this week, and they have already been placed on IR, you might have that option in your bench to at least keep them in case you need them before your top players come back.
Yeah, and I've got one more guy that I think is playable. Because Kansas City's been a 3-headed monster, we've been sort of, leery of wanting to pick any of these guys, although I've been on the Pacheco train because I drafted him. But I would say with CEH being a non-factor now, you have to look at Jerick McKinnon because it's a good team. And he's the pass catching / goal line / 2-minute guy for a very good team who, I just want to add, is having some real injury problems. A lot of pass catchers on that team. Kadarius Toney is new. So Juju Smith-Schuster got concussed, and he'll be out probably a week or two because of the new protocols. And Mecole Hardman missed last week. And these are guys that factor into the passing game, and with them being out and Kadarius Toney being new, I think McKinnon's going to get some check down work that he hasn't been getting necessarily all season.
Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. He likes to throw the ball to lots of players, so it's pretty tough to pick which one on that team is going to give you fantasy points. But hey, anytime somebody on your bench, not on your bench, on your active roster scores a touchdown, you should be happy. So
yeah,
that's a good choice.
Okay, let's move to the next category. What do you think about receivers coming up?
Well, there's probably going to be a lot of people looking to replace some of their star receivers as production has either gone up or down, or people have got injured. So let's talk about some injuries. So Judy went out this week. So Kendall Hilton for Denver is someone to look at if you want to go on the Denver train. I know you won't touch the Denver train, but Judy was catching passes there. This guy is probably their number 2 that they're going for.
Okay, I'll keep my mouth shut. Everybody's going to be on the Christian Watson hype train, and he's actually available in my league. And how can you not be? Who else is Aaron Rodgers going to throw to there? He had an amazing game against an extremely tough defense, but he's so fast, he just runs by everybody. So we have to put Christian Watson on the list of names to pick up for wide receiver this week, right?
I'll put him on my list to draft next year.
That's fair. That's fair. It's a good guy to look at. And I want to throw in, because Jeff Saturday came out of the TV studio onto the field as a head coach for the Colts, he made a couple of great decisions right away. He put Matt Ryan back in as the starter, and they ran the ball. And all of a sudden, they look pretty good. So a couple receivers, I had Alec Pierce earlier this season. I dropped him as soon as they switched to Ellinger. But a guy who's even better, who's going to be available in a lot of leagues, is Paris Campbell. So I had him
on my list as well too. I watched a little bit of that game. It seems to be getting targets. And yeah, like you said, good decision by a broadcast booth guy. Obviously, he's been watching football and knows a little bit about what's going on.
And he's an old lineman, and he likes running the ball. And you mentioned about injuries. So with Cooper Kupp going down, do you like anyone from that team to fill a bit of a void that's been left there?
There's going to be lots of decision makings on the Rams. I just hope they continue to lose. Not because I don't like the Super Bowl champions. I don't think they have a great team. But they traded for Stafford for their 2023 number 1 draft pick. So the worse that they do is the better for the Lions for draft picks. So if they stay 3-16, then I'll be a very happy camper. But that probably won't happen. Van Jefferson.
It always comes back to the Lions with you. It's so great. I love it.
Van Jefferson would probably be, I guess, someone up there.
Yeah,
maybe Tyler Higbee when we go talk to tight ends. Maybe seeing more targets based on the Cup incident. And if you have any more wide receivers, we can go to there. But that was the only person I had on the Rams, just because of who's going to pick up Cup's workload. I presume it's the tight end, but I could be incorrect, and there could be a wide receiver out there that could do you well.
Yeah, no, I'm think that transitioning to tight ends, that's a good place to do it, because Higbee would be a good guy. I don't think he'll be available anywhere, but I agree with you. He's going to get a lot more targets now. I'll let you start with tight ends if you've got a couple of names.
I only have one, and he's actually on a bye. He plays with Seattle, Noah Fat. Obviously, I woke up at 6:30 to watch the game. I've been watching Seattle because I have their defense, actually, for the last 3 weeks now. Yeah. So I've been kind of putting my ear to the ground. If you need a tight end that's coming up on a bye, like into the later weeks of the season, I think this guy is someone you can stash.
Okay. Zach Ertz has been having a great season. He is now out for the year, having knee surgery. He's gone, completely gone. And that team loves to throw to the tight end. Ertz has been busy this year. So his backup is named Trey McBride. He was the top tight end drafted in the draft this past season. He was the first tight end off the board. So it seems like low-hanging fruit, but I'm just going to go ahead and say you got to look at that guy, right? Okay.
He's probably rostered. If I check, he's probably available in my league.
Yeah, he's available. I think he's available in a lot of leagues because I've never heard anybody talk about him since the season started. There was a little bit of buzz before the season, but then Zach Ertz got all the work. I have another name, and it's Mark Andrews is a great tight end. He's been injured, and I don't really know how healthy he is. He's got a knee and a shoulder. He hasn't looked good lately, and his backup, Isaiah Likely, has been lighting it up. Depending on how healthy Mark Andrews is, I would say Likely is a guy who you might want to stash and or play going forward.
Yeah, we brought him up already a couple of weeks ago. So when Andrews first went injured, so. Yeah, he is playing hurt, and he is a good, tall receiver and fast. We all know about the quarterback, Lamar Jackson. He really does his best work in between the hash marks. So getting a tight end into those locations is good. Yeah, just something to look at. I mean, he might be gone, but in a situation where your tight end's on a bye, and maybe Likely is out there because it looks like Andrews is gonna play, but then maybe he does or maybe he doesn't. And if I were them, I'd look at a way to work him in and get both of those guys on the field at the same time, and then the other team won't know who you're gonna throw to. But that's just me being an offensive coach. Unemployed in Vancouver, unemployed in football, that is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you want to move on to defense? Have you got somebody?
Yeah, just one. I mentioned at the top of the hour, Jets against New England, because they play each other tough, and it's theirs to win this week. And they're coming off a bye, so that's the only one I think that you should stream if you need a defense, like I do, because I have Seattle.
You might want to look at the Commanders because they are playing Houston, and they look good against Philly. Against Houston, they're probably going to clean up.
Let's hope that that the hangover doesn't last too long.
Those are two good suggestions for defenses. And then kickers.
I'd struggle with this one. Nick Folk. He has a good percentage right now. I don't know if he's rostered in many leagues, but he's someone that is dependable considering that quarterback on New England. We don't know really who's starting, who's not starting, and who's getting the ball.
And not a great offense. And they're playing against a really good defense in the Jets. So that's a good pick. And I would say in that same game, you could go to the other side. You've got Greg Zuerlein for the Jets playing against New England. And it's the same thing. It's like shaky QB playing against a good D. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. This could be one of those 12-9 games where it's all field goals, so both of these kickers I think are in play.
Yeah, that's true. Especially since Belichick's probably thinking about how he can destroy the Jets.
Yeah.
And take away all their options and really just make them fight for each point or each yard they get. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting week. I probably will not be watching that game.
No, probably only people who are desperate will be watching that game because there'll be other fun things to watch. And I just wanted to say this guy's name because it's fun. I noticed last week that the Chargers had Dicker the kicker. And I thought that was great. And he scored 12 fantasy points, Dicker the kicker. And Dicker the kicker is at Kansas City this week if he gets the start. Normally they've got Dustin Hopkins, but he's been injured. So if Hopkins isn't playing, Kansas City, they're not the best defense. You might want to think about picking up Dicker the kicker.
I love that way to sign off. All right, cool. Well, enjoy your rest of your week, Sean. I'm going to continue with my workday here. Always fun talking to you. Good luck this week in your fantasy week. Hopefully another W comes your way.
Yep, you too. Keep up your winning ways.
Thanks for watching the Fantasy Football Game Plan podcast. Need coaching on your lineup? Drop us a line and we'll discuss your dilemma.